We all know water is essential. All living things rely on water. Yet, despite its abundance, the challenges of ensuring clean, accessible water are growing more complex by the day. Climate change, industrial activities, and rapid population growth are just a few of the factors putting immense pressure on our global water supplies. This is where water stewardship becomes critical, focusing on the prudent, ethical, and sustainable management of our water resources to meet these growing challenges. Water stewardship encourages responsibility and collaborative solutions to protect future generations. In line with this philosophy, Inogen Alliance established a global water working group. This team consists of more than 40 associate members, including 16 who are consultants with AWS professional specialist credentials, bringing together a diverse range of cultures, regions, and expertise to push forward water solutions. This group exchanges technical knowledge and capabilities, collaborating on projects that help multinational organizations translate their ambitious corporate water goals into tangible, on-the-ground action. For example, in a recent project, more than 10 associate members worked together to implement the Alliance for Water Stewardship standard across multiple high-risk locations for our client. The initiative aimed to not only reduce water consumption, but also to foster synergy with the broader water catchment area, enhancing water quality, biodiversity, and resilience among stakeholders. Today on the podcast, we're diving into the critical necessity of water stewardship with some of the key members of this influential group. For a panel discussion, I'm thrilled to be joined by 4 accredited Alliance for Water Stewardship AWS specialists. First, Maria Rosaria Gagliotti, Senior Consultant and Partner at Baden Consulting. Beatrice Pizarro, Sustainability Consultant at HPC Italy and Water Working Group Leader with Inogen Alliance. C. Rajdarai, Senior Manager at Cholamandalam MS Risk Services Limited. And Joseph Quay, Senior Partner at a new global consulting. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome, and thanks so much for making the time to talk on what is, I think, one of the most interesting and important issues to talk about, and it's water, because we all need it. There seems to be so much of it on the planet, but not enough of it where we need it, how we need it these days, and not enough conversation about what water stewardship is, what it's about, and how we get better at it. So I'm very excited to have such a great panel of people to have this conversation and looking forward to getting things started. So to open and level set, I'm just going to walk through each person individually. Can you just talk for a couple minutes about how you could briefly and broadly define water stewardship? I'll start with Maria.
Water stewardship is about managing, taking care of water, this critical resource that basically we can consider our most precious resource. We can define water stewardship as the use of water that is socially and culturally equitable, environmentally sustainable, and economically beneficial. In other words, we can say that water stewardship is about working together to protect this critical resource. And I personally have attended the AWS training this year to become AWS professional specialist because my goal was to do my part in the water stewardship itself.
Thanks, Maria, for that. Beatrice, what would you add to that?
Well, I think defining what water stewardship means, it's sometimes is more of a complex question than what it seems. But before giving you my answer, I actually want to share a little bit of a personal anecdote. What happened to me when I explained water stewardship, in particular the word stewardship in my native language, which is Italian. And when I was trying to explain it, I actually came to realize that there is no direct translation for the word stewardship. Water, okay, but stewardship, there is no translation in Italian. And actually, I conducted a little poll with my Inogen Alliance colleagues, and I found out that the majority of languages do not have a direct translation for the word stewardship. So can you imagine having to explain a word or a term that doesn't even exist in most languages? So that's why I feel that more importantly is the understanding of the concept behind the word stewardship, rather than focus exclusively on the translation. And now I'll get to your question, Phil. So stewardship is a concept, as Maria was saying, that can be applied to the governance of any natural resource. So water, forest, and it implies a sense of protection or preservation or of enhancement for something that, we're all using, but nobody really owns. And it has become a bit of a buzzword in the last years. We've been hearing so much about the word stewardship. And that's the reason for this is that many multinational companies, many organizations have really incorporated water stewardship as a strategic pillar in their business models, because organizations are seeking a greater responsibility when it comes to resource management.
Well, that's interesting at multiple levels. I mean, I think the first one is when communities or societies don't have a definition of a word, it means something about how they think about that concept, right? If there are cultures that have multiple words for love versus just one, for example. And I'm very curious if we could dig into what that might mean in the different cultural contexts of stewardship as we try to apply them around the world. But thanks for that, Beatrice. And I'm just going to move on to Raja. Raja, how would you define water stewardship?
Yeah, sure. So as Beatrice said, there are multiple communities which have words not to translate about the stewardship. But if you look it across, first of all, I want to touch it upon water. Water is something, personal and touching to every individuals and also to the ecosystem and also the environment, which is over here across the globe, if you take it across. So in the context of, water, emerges water conservation and water stewardship. So the difference, if you look it across water conservation and water stewardship starts with the conservation. And in the conservation, if you look it across, looking beyond your fence line of your industrial operation or your facility operation and going inward to outward approach towards the community where you are responsibly able to manage the water resource to balance between your economic, environment and social needs. In a simple terms, I can put it across for industries. Water stewardship means implementing practices which are not only enhances their operational efficiency, but also which helps to minimize their operational impacts and supporting the community needs. Water as a shared resource, you have to take care of us together.
That makes a lot of sense. So, Joseph, can you bring us home and add what you would to this definition of water stewardship?
Yeah, sure. Water stewardship is definitely a very hot topic in China and the Asia Pacific region. So, in my opinion, water stewardship means the water resource is properly managed and used in a way that is socially equitable, environmentally sustainable, and economically beneficial. The aspect of water stewardship includes efficient water use, water quality protection, sustainable water management, as well as collaboration and governance.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'm going to cycle back in the opposite direction, but I'm going to ask you guys to take this to another level, to a deeper level, to a more personal or specific level. So you're all AWS certified professionals. You all care about this issue. Can you tell a story or an anecdote about the types of organization you work with or the types of communities that were impacted and how that ties to your personal or professional responsibilities as an AWS professional? I'll start with Joseph and work my way back.
Yeah, sure. The company I'm working is a consulting company, and we provide different kind of environmental consulting service to our client, and that include the water consulting service. And some of the company, the water stewardship is important for some of the companies because by doing the water stewardship work, it can ensure the operational continuity of the company. And it can also help the business comply with the increasing regulation and avoid the legal risk. And also can enhance the company's brand reputation. By doing the water stewardship, can also improve the water management practice of the company, can lead to cost saving, can save the water consumption and improve the efficiency. So, and also strengthen their supply chain resilience in water dependent sectors. So actually, this kind of water stewardship, I think this kind of service is important to us and also important to our clients and can prepare them for the climate change impacts, mitigating risk from water shortage, droughts, and flooding.
Those are all really important issues and really important impacts. Raja, can you give an example of some sort of companies or organizations you work with or specific communities that that could showcase the positive impact of water stewardship?
Yeah, sure. So let me iterate this and, a short journey how this water stewardship and especially Alliance for Water Stewardship has emerged in India and how we have been navigating across this journey, especially how important it's for the industrial partners whom we work with. So if you look at across almost around 10 years of experience in the water segment and working with multiple clients on the initial phases on the water conservation, where we work more in terms of an operational related issues, in terms of water quality, what they need for their production, and in terms of what amount of the wastewater they are generating, how to reduce, how to recycle, how to recover. When we speak about water stewardship, so especially at the global level, if you look it across, there are multiple frameworks which speaks about, say, CEO water mandate or CDP water disclosure, or Niti Aayog guidelines in India, which speaks about water positivity. The Alliance for Water Stewardship, which speaks as an universal standard, which is also called as an international water stewardship standard, which helps the companies in benchmarking their water stewardship maturity level. So that's the one of the key focus why all of us are certified for the Alliance for Water Stewardship, and where we started our journey in supporting our clients beyond their conservation efforts within the factory, go out of the fence line and reach out to the community, how as a common water resource you can help in contributing in the conservation efforts or the conserving the valuable resource of water. I'll give you a typical example. If you take a certain company faces a significant challenge in operation, which might be due to an overwater scarcity and also the environmental impact of their operation in terms of wastewater discharge after treatment and with respect to the water quality aspects. So this company actually addresses, majority of the operational and issues, and also with respect to the local community level issues because of their operation. So what is kind of an initiative that we can look it across in the water stewardship if you try to look it across? First and foremost, water replenishment, where this project helps at the community level for the groundwater recharge, which, for instance, the company will start investing in terms of rainwater harvesting and watershed management practices along with their NGO partners. And the second aspects, if you look it across, community level engagements, which call for an collective action with respect to multiple stakeholders. So the company will engage with the multiple stakeholders starting from NGOs and local communities and provide them training in terms of resource management and how to do a sustainable agricultural practice so that the, reducing their water usage at the community level. And the third aspects, if you look it across on the water stewardship initiative, it will be more in terms of water quality improvements. So where you work straightly in terms of providing a treatment plan for the community level sewage management, which helps to, release the treated water back to the environment, which would be pristine and helps the nature and environment to be at the pristine level. And what could be the positive outcomes by doing this if you look at? So they will start with the operational benefit and also the community level impacts. You get social license at the region where you operate, and also which you have an enhanced reputation. So these efforts of the company will also foster the strong community relationship and also support in their long-term operations.
That's a really helpful and detailed response. I want to go to Maria next and ask if you have some specific examples that you've seen, like how do you showcase the impact of the work as an AWS certified professional?
Yes. As members of the Water Working Group within Inogen Alliance and as members of the Alliance for Water Stewardship, we as a community could share for sure many examples and many projects. What we have learned from all these examples from this project is that good water stewardship can protect an organization, a company, from regulatory breaches and negative reputational impacts. So on the other hand, a good water stewardship can offer a very positive reputational impact. And besides, also nature and society can benefit. As I told you before, I got certified as AWS specialist this year, so I don't have many examples to share. Personally, I have provided support in the renewal and integration of specific technical documents during the AWS certification implementation for a client's facility in Switzerland. But what I've learned from the other examples shared by my colleagues, and also when I meet the clients, this is what I have learned, that a good water stewardship can for sure offer a very positive reputational impact And on the other hand, nature as society can benefit from it.
Well, Maria, I'm really glad that you brought up the working group inside of the Indigen Alliance, because my understanding is that Beatrice leads this group, and I understand a little bit about how those groups work. So Beatrice, can you share with us a little bit about what the working group is, what it does across the Alliance, and how you've been able to highlight issues that matter not just in one region, but can replicate impact across regions?
Sure, Phil. So I've been coordinating and leading the Water Working Group of Indigen Alliance since November 2022. And it has indeed been an extraordinary journey. I think one of the best things was seeing this group grow. I think we were about 16 associates, so 16 member companies at the beginning, and now we're over 40. We have, I think, a total of 55 points of contact from over the world. So this growth has been remarkable and so satisfying personally. In terms of takeaways, I would say the exchange of technical expertise, the dialogue over project case studies, but also the very diverse hands-on perspectives on market trends, emerging water challenges, as well as opportunities. That is what I personally get out of this group. In terms of value to our clients, because I think that's also very important to highlight. So what does this group create for our clients? We have produced quite a lot of external content. So we have been executing a number of external webinars, and they have been a great asset because I think they give a very clear image, understanding of our capabilities as a global team, and also of our expertise in both engineering and sustainability related water projects and in solving some of the biggest water challenges that we are seeing today, and which unfortunately I think will continue to continue in the future. And the amount of knowledge, the understanding that a consultant who is exposed to these kind of groups, to this kind of table, can bring to a client, I think it's absolutely priceless.
I'm definitely sure that it is. It speaks to the point of the importance of collaboration and sharing of information. And I'm going to open this up to see who wants to go first. But can you share your perspective on why this collaboration is so important on this topic?
Yes, actually, I would say that collaboration, it's in the definition of water stewardship itself. The water stewardship community sets its goals, and in order to achieve these goals, to meet the deadlines, collaboration is critical, is very important. And this is, as I said, is a critical topic. In practice, water stewardship is also more effective when stakeholders work together in the catchment to take collective action. And what I have learned, what I have seen during these events, during these AWS events, is that the water stewardship community is moving from theory to practice when it comes to collective action. And also, for example, if we think now currently, there is the revision 3 of the international standard, and this topic, convergence, has been taken in account for the revision of the standard.
So you make a couple really important points in there, that the community sets its own goals, that it's taking collective action, and that it's moving from theory to practice. When we take industry taking its own action and compare it to regulatory compliance, like, say, for example, CSRD, right? This is an important topic that we talked about in previous episodes, and that I know it is an issue for those in the EU and who are impacted by the EU. How do you manage the challenges around water stewardship in terms of where there are regulatory issues versus how the industry itself takes the lead to set standards, set its own goals, and then take collective action? Does anyone want to comment on that?
So if you look it across, one of the critical aspects in the collaboration is the stakeholder engagement. So where there comes as a transparency in the data management and sharing what you communicate and why you communicate. So that two question makes, really important in addressing the collective action as well as the collaboration that we are going to achieve with the regulators or with the stakeholders. So if you look it across the complexity in the collaboration of the water stewardship, one of the critical aspects is regulatory and the policy support which you have with the stakeholder group. So the collaboration initiative, which actually helps the industries in, to share with the regulators and also the policymakers how to promote the sustainable water management. And also this helps the stakeholders to work together, not only an individual voice, multiple voice on the same event will help to advocate for the multiple policy changes and also balance on the economy and the environmental needs while we use on the water.
So if you're going to tackle that, it sounds like a really complex issue, a number of different stakeholders who have to collaborate. Can you guys talk a little bit about who are the stakeholders that need to be there? What some of the challenges are of bringing them all together? For someone who is new to this or is trying to be a practitioner, someone who's listening and says, I understand that this conceptual level. Can you give an example of how it works well, or what challenges you have to tackle to make it work well? How would you address that?
Phil, when you were talking about water stewardship and how it's evolved, because when we think about stakeholders, there's also a time-based evolution. And if we think about water stewardship, it is such an ancient practice. I mean, I saw some incredible testimonies from this year's World Water Week Congress in Stockholm, which I attended in August. And there were so many indigenous First Nation communities that they have been carrying out water stewardship principle and nature-based solutions since the beginning of time. So water stewardship, we have to remember that it's been around forever. And what I'm seeing is that, very recently, 5 years, 7 years, the level of awareness has increased amongst the water community, the larger water community, which when I say that, I want to include the multinational companies, the associations, the organizations, the indigenous communities, the government representatives. So I think that in terms of stakeholder engagements, we are starting to reach a point where people are realizing that to solve these long-term water issues, and we need to act collectively, it's coming across. I'm not saying that we're there. I think the road is still very, very long, especially for some of these stakeholders. But I think the conversation is more active. It's more proactive. And I'm seeing more and more inclusivity and key figures getting involved and being at those tables and having those conversations.
One of the key questions that comes to mind when you bring up indigenous practices or things that have been around forever is the fact that how might those scale for a population that we've not seen before on the planet? And how would you address that?
Yeah, I think, the rapid population growth is definitely, I think, it's one of the challenges for the water stewardship. So the increase of the population, the rapid population growth will increase the water demand to increase the regional water stress. And regarding the challenge of the water stewardship, I would like to say that besides the rapid population growth, also, in my opinion, will include the climate change and the water pollution. The climate change will lead to unpredictable water availability and extreme weather. And the water pollution, because of the agriculture and the industrial activities, will also increase the regional stress.
I think that what we have learned as AWS specialists and also as members of the Alliance for Water Stewardship is that in the last 10 years, basically water stewardship is not an exact science. I'm referring to the last 10 years because the first version of the international standard has been launched 10 years ago. So what does it mean that the water stewardship is not an exact science? It means that we cannot fix water. Water needs a continual care and attention. And what we have seen also in the last years is that the link between water stewardship and climate adaptation and resilience is becoming prominent. And this will be one of the central features in the next decade of water stewardship. So we all are aware that our water resources are under increasing pressure for climate change, growing economies, population growth. We all are witnesses of more frequent and severe droughts and floods, adding to the already high number of water-related natural disasters. So, as I said, this link between water stewardship and climate adaptation and resilience is already prominent and will become critical in the next years.
Well, that brings me back to the challenge between the regulatory and the self-guidance of this water stewardship community. And I'm curious from Raja and Joseph's perspective, my assumption is that you're spending more time in India, in China, in places where there are major issues of density and climate change of population that might be different than the issues of density and climate change from Europe. So from that perspective, can you talk a little bit about how this collaboration, how this leadership in the community in those environments might be different or unique, or things that you're seeing that are working in those environments, because you have to address them in a country of over 1 billion people differently than you do of a country that has 100 million or 300 million. Who would care to go tackle that one first?
So as you look it across, water is a very complex of water issues. So if you really look it across, the availability of water is scarcity, which has been posed to multiple threats, including physical risk for the people on the day-to-day availability of water for their basic needs as a basic human rights, you can say, in that part. So which calls for always a collective action, because when the community of people not having water for their basic needs of drinking, cooking and bathing, and in the same locality you have an industry which uses water for their production and which is being able to go for the next level of an operational improvements and things, which calls for a serious question and also threat among the society on the operational aspects. So which really calls for a collaborative action where how the industries can reach out to this particular group of people who have, I would say, avoided with the basic need of the water, which has been protected. So to say in this context, collaboration, how it helps. So if you look it across an industrial operation, when they move out of the fence line, the first and foremost thing, they are not going out of the fence line to mitigate their operational impacts. So water as a common resource, it's not only on the operational impacts mitigation, but as a common society will and also the social improvement of the region, which helps the business continuity and also the reputational improvement, where the focus of collaboration with the indigenous people and the minority people who have been located in that local community will be able to address.
In China, there are several measures to tackle the challenges we have mentioned. The first one is we can use the innovative technologies such as the smart water management system.
Yes,
can improve the water efficiency and conservation efforts. And number two is the collaboration between the public and the private partner sectors that can enhance the funding and implementation of a sustainable practice. And the third one is the enhancement of the community engagement, can empower local stakeholders to take part in the water management, fostering more effective solution.
So if you look it across, one of the important aspects in that, building a trust and relationship. So when actually the collaboration is needed, the important piece that you should be able to achieve with the society is building a trust and relationship with the community, where you would be able to engage and build a strong relationship, which is crucial for gaining the community support and also ensuring the stewardship efforts are well received by the community. It's a mutual acknowledgement which you would be able to achieve.
You know what I'm hearing from you two is something very similar to what we're seeing in California. There are multiple stakeholders who need the water. The local communities for your cooking, bathing, consumption. The farmers for growing food. The people who are using it for manufacturing. Those who want to see it support fisheries and wildlife, right? This is an everyday conversation in California that is stressed by economic growth, population growth, and climate change. If you're in a country that is mostly hydroelectric, we're talking about a country that is mostly hydroelectric, but then the water production moves, so you can't drive the hydropower. It changes the dynamic for all of the stakeholders who are demanding water as their source of whatever it is that they need as a specific stakeholder. And it sounds like similar challenges and similar collaborations that are needed. I'm curious from Beatrice and Maria's perspective, when you think about the EU or the regions that you work with, do you see the same similarities? Are you seeing any collaborations that are making it more effective for all of these stakeholders that we're talking about to work in unison with the limited resources of fresh water and the changing generation of that water and ability to store that water so it can be used when needed.
Phil, you actually touched on one of my takeaways from the World Water Week Forum in Stockholm, which I had the pleasure to attend in August. I was actually lucky enough to attend both the Alliance for Water Stewardship Forum in Edinburgh, Scotland in June. And then in August, I flew to Sweden in Stockholm and attended the World Water Week. So I was bombarded by so much information. And to be honest, you always feel so positive and so energized after these congresses. But I will keep my feet on the ground, and I will also touch some of the challenges which I perceived. But in terms of opportunities, what I am seeing, and that's what you are, let's say, serving me on the plate, was that willingness to come together. So, working together and avoid that siloed approach when it comes to water-related actions and water-related projects. That's something which I really perceived as an opportunity, as something which is improving. For example, I attended a very interesting session in Stockholm on water security through nature-based solutions. And what was highlighted was how much more successful projects were when local communities were involved from day one. So them sharing their local knowledge, the local know-how, having that shared ownership, and really trying to do and be focused on doing things for the good of the communities, because you engage them in the process. So you just don't step in and, helicopter your way through what you feel is best, but really engaging the local stakeholders, the local communities. And this sticks to them. They feel that ownership, that shared ownership. And like I said before, many of the nature-based solutions that now many organizations, many companies are implementing is something which highly resonates with so many people from diverse cultures and social backgrounds. So we want to have that inclusivity, because there is a lot of information out there. Sometimes we just need a way to harness it, interpret it, and make it effective to create even stronger business cases.
So that sounds amazing. I want to go to this conference. So while you were talking, Beatrice, what I was thinking is, for our audience, if there are people who are early in their water stewardship journey or not as far along as you all are as experts, what might you recommend for them to get the most out of attending some of these events?
Well, first of all, I would actually like to give out the statement for them, for the beginners of this journey is, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, in the sense that water stewardship may be overwhelming at times. It may feel like a huge task to take on. You might even feel by yourself when you just start off with this journey, especially for, smaller organizations, smaller companies. But remember that the cost of doing nothing is always far greater than the cost of doing. So start your journey and learn and, improve along the way, learn from others. That really is the power of sharing. And that's the good that comes out of attending these congresses, the sharing, learning best practices, looking at the case studies, and really trying to see how all of these actions can maybe be applied to a different context, your situation, your communities, your stakeholders, to really try and create, your own way of putting into action water stewardship in local contexts and geographies.
That makes a ton of sense and sounds like really good advice. Maria, can you comment a little bit on things that you might be seeing in the area where you work most frequently that are similar to or different than what we've heard from the other panelists?
Yes, I would like maybe to highlight the link, because before we have spoken a little bit about the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, this European directive, which came into force last year, 2023. So for people who are not aware, this directive basically strengthens the rules concerning the social and environmental information that companies have to report. I would not underestimate the link between and the impact that the CSRD has on the water stewardship, because we are observing that the CSRD and also the related rules can be, and in fact are, a catalyst for greater transparency and accountability. The CSRD can promoting dialogues with companies, and very important for a water stewardship community, promoting investing in water security. So I would like to highlight the link between CSRD and water stewardship. What I would like also to highlight is that water stewardship, of course, is very important for the greater good, but it also makes commercial sense. So this means that the water stewardship can protect business continuity, ensuring operations and supply chains become more resilient. So, as we all have already said before, the impact that water stewardship can have on an organization, on a company, is from the regulatory perspective, because can protect from regulatory breaches, but can also have an important impact on the reputation of the company, of the organization itself.
You know, one really important thing that I think CSRD has is, as you said, impacts the transparency and collaboration in Europe. But there are also ripple effects outside of Europe. I'm curious, Raj and Joseph, what sort of impacts you see on India and China from CSRD in a positive way? Because it seems to me that often people are afraid of regulatory. You say the regulatory word, the R word in the US, and people are concerned. Right. And the fear is that there are costs to implement down the line that aren't necessarily worth it for different communities. But it doesn't seem like that's the case from the perspective that Maria brings. What do you guys think?
Yeah, CSRD also is a regulatory requirement from Europe, but it also has the requirement that the company reaching some of the scale need to publish be according to the CSRD requirement, even the company is not based in not based in Europe. Just like if the Chinese company has a large operation in Europe, it still need to be according to the CSRD requirements. So that's why the Chinese company, they have the operation in China, still need to do some of the work, be complying with the CSRD requirement. And as Millie said, CSRD, the content of the requirement of the CSRD include the water aspect, especially for the companies heavily rely on the water resource. So the requirement of the CSRD will push some of the company with the branches in China to improve water management aspect, including water stewardship. So somehow in CSRD just enhanced to encourage the companies in China to improve their water stewardship practice in China.
It's really interesting because, one region can have such an impact on the other, but it seems like the practitioners know that we really need to work together. I mean, Raja, would you agree with what Joseph said? What would you add?
Yes, definitely. That's the same scenario in India. If you look at across any of the Indian companies which has operation in Europe, still they have to comply with the CSRD regulations for their operations in Europe. And even if you look at across the CSRD, I look at in three aspects. So as said, the CSRD enhances transparency. The moment we say transparency, it forces the company to give detailed report with respect to their water usage and quality and how they treat their wastewater and how they use it, reuse it, or how they discharge or dispose it in a better manner. So this forces that this information is going to be in public, and it emphasizes the industries to do the risk assessment in a holistic way so that any problem related to water scarcity and pollution can be addressed in a proactive step rather than as a compliance obligation. So this is one part of it. And the second part, if you look it across on the stakeholder engagement, CSRD also encourages the stakeholder engagement, which is more pulls over the community and how you collaborate with the communities and how you build the trust and be accountable where you operate in terms of water management. When I say this both, what happens eventually, the companies will move towards standardizing their matrices, what I need to disclose and how to, give periodic information with clear, consistent metrics so that, by so and so year, I would be able to reach to this particular status. Either it might be water positivity or water neutrality, or might be zero liquid discharge, which I would be able to across all their operations. This is how I see it as an, pressure which built across the industries to proactively act upon and move towards it. Sustainable management of water.
Outstanding. So I feel like I'm hearing consistently that it's good policy that makes good commercial sense for everyone. And I'm very excited to hear that.
I just want to say that it's incredible how CSRD is just getting into all of the conversations right now. I mean, rightly so, but it really is getting its way to the water community as well.
It's pretty exciting to actually hear positivity around something that's getting people to doing the right thing, things people want to do, need to do, and just giving them an anchor for actually coordinating on it. So I know that we could continue this conversation for some time, but we have to respect your time and let you go. So I have a parting shot for each one of you that just is quite simple. First, why do you do what you do? And where would you like to see the community focus more in the near future? I'll start with Maria and then cycle through like we started the conversation.
Yes, I would say that in general, my goal in my life is to do my part. And this is both for my private and my professional life. In my job, I try to do that. And this means to me, on one hand, into keeping up to date and learning continuously. And on the other hand, to making my own contribution. Regarding the water stewardship, I think that we have this challenge for the future, for the next decade. And so the link between water stewardship and climate adaptation and resilience, this is already prominent, and it will become in the next decade for sure one of the main features for water stewardship. And so water stewardship community is moving from theory to practice. So needs to react promptly and need to be prepared for this challenge.
I totally understand that. Beatrice, what would you say?
Well, I started off my career as an environmental scientist and geotechnical geologist. So I stepped into the water world almost by accident. But to be honest, it's always been an underlying passion and theme which I personally deeply advocate for, especially for the human right to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene. I come from a very small country in Southeast Africa called Malawi, in which having potable water at home literally is a luxury for most people. You know, I want to do my part. I somehow think that with my contribution, even if in a very small way, I am supporting organizations to catalyze some sort of change and to really channel their efforts into the, Sustainability Development Goal number 6 and to reach a more water secure world. As a professional, so as a water stewardship specialist, I really hope to work towards bridging the gaps that are there. I mean, we've talked a lot about the positive aspects, and there's plenty of those, but I think there are still some gaps to bridge. The gap between the private and public sector, the gap between having, physical data available, but very often there's a lack of capabilities when it comes to elaborating, reading, interpreting, and applying that information. And lastly, I think there's still some gaps between, the holistic high-level policy thinking and the practical on-site solutions when it comes to, implementing water stewardship on the ground. So I really hope to be able to continue to do my work and help bridge these gaps in the future.
That sounds amazing. Raja, what would you say? Why do you do what you do? And what would you like to see the community focus more on in the near future?
So if you look at across, for me, it's been believed that we can create a sustainable future, which is going to be more water resilient and also efficient water use at the community level and also at the individual and factories level. And being a consultant, I providing a consultancy and advisory service for many of the corporates that promotes the healthier ecosystem and community, which what motivates me every day, what I do in the activity. And also seeing a real progress, how it gets connected with the corporate practice and also getting engaged with the community level discussions where you interact with the ground level people who suffer for the basic human rights needs, as what Beatrice has rightly pointed out, which is a powerful motivation and keeps you satisfied in what you do.
Super. So Joseph, do you want to bring us home?
Yeah, sure. So my university degree is majored in environmental engineering, specialized in water and wastewater engineering. So I started my career as a water and wastewater treatment process manager, engineer more than 20 years ago. And I have a deep passion for sustainability and a desire to make a positive impact to the environment and the communities. I like my job, and I hope I can keep doing my job to help the community to bring the clean and accessible water for the future generation. And I find the inspiration in the opportunity to innovate, collaborate, and empower local communities.
And are there any particular areas that you think people should focus on in the near future based on your area of expertise?
Yeah. So I think in the near future, I think as we have mentioned that we will meet a lot the challenges for regarding the water stewardship. We will meet definitely some of the challenges like the climate change, water pollution, and the rapid population growth. And personally, how to tackle these kind of challenge, I will work with my team to improve our capacity and to work with the local community to tackle this kind of challenge.
So to add to what Joseph told, I have a small story to narrate as a live experience. So if you look it across, during my childhood, we used to get a water in the tap and we used to drink directly, and there would not be anything which I need to buy money to purchase a water for day-to-day drinking. But today, it's a live example where you have to spend money to get clean water to drink, which states the real scarcity that we are going through. And also, equitable access is going to be a big issue where in future, you are going to have water access, quality, and also disproportion among the community where you have been there. So this is going to be an incredible complex issue with changing climate change issues and also the regulatory pressures that has been built across. So that I see it as a major challenge, and also opportunities could be more in terms of an innovative technologies and also the collaborative solutions and sustainable practices, which more to foster and enhance in the actions as a collective action, not as an individual actions that would going to help it across.
I couldn't have asked for a better way to close this out. Thank you very much. I mean, this is amazing because it's an issue that, as you said, has been around forever, but it's more important than ever for all the people, all the stakeholders we talked about, and for all the things that we're trying to do in a positive way for sustainability and high quality of life on the planet. So I want to thank you all for giving us your time. Thank you for the work that you do. You're in an incredible place because there's going to be a lot of this work here seemingly for a long time because we've got some major challenges to address and some people to convince that we can solve this problem together and make the next generations thrive even more than those before. So thanks so much for sharing, and really appreciate having you on the show today.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks again to our guests for coming on the show to discuss the important work they're doing in water stewardship. Here are my key takeaways from the conversation. First, the power of collective action and collaboration in tackling water stewardship challenges cannot be overstated. Engaging local communities, government bodies, and industries is crucial for creating effective and sustainable water management practices with watershed scale and long-term effect. Second, regulatory frameworks like the CSRD play a significant role in fostering transparency, accountability, and proactive water management among businesses. Their influence is so powerful that it often extends beyond the regions where these regulations are enforced. Finally, water stewardship is both ancient practice and modern necessity. Bridging traditional knowledge with contemporary practices and innovative technologies can enhance water resilience and ensure the sustainable use of this crucial resource for future generations. And finally, water stewardship is both an ancient practice and a modern necessity. Bringing traditional knowledge with contemporary practices and innovative technologies can enhance water resilience and ensure the sustainable use of this critical resource for future generations. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Rethinking EHS. We'd like to thank our exceptional guests for sharing their expertise. Please don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. For more tools and tips on how to work globally with the local lens, check out the Global Resources page on the Inogen Alliance website to access webinars, downloads, ebooks, and more. Find the link in our show notes or visit www.inogenalliance.com/resources. To hear more from our guests on this topic, check out the Water Stewardship Wave webinar. Follow Inogen Alliance on LinkedIn for our latest updates. And until next time, let's innovate, inspire, and rethink EHS together.